Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today I'm going to be cleaning up a Nintendo Wii U system. So you might have bought one second hand and you want to give it a good clean, or you might have had it for a while and it's starting to get a bit grubby and dusty, so you need to clean it. So in this video I'm going to be using household products, and most of these products you should already have, and I'm going to show you the before, and then I'll do all the cleaning, but I'll be fast forwarding through the cleaning because it's going to take quite a while, and then I'll show you the end result. So the things we need are a vacuum cleaner. We're going to need a little bit of water, a cotton cloth which is nice and soft. We're going to need some Q-tips. We might need some surgical spirit, or you might know this as rubbing alcohol depending on how bad the grime is. And then most importantly, what we need is some very small screwdrivers or needles to get into all the bits to clean all the grime out. So I'm going to be using a mixture of a couple of very small flathead screwdrivers and also a very small needle as well. And a bit of kitchen towel or tissue just to give everything a good clean up at the end. Okay, now let me just show you the grubby parts of it that I want cleaning. So if we have a look at the console over here, if you have a look at the bottom here, the vents are nearly blocked up with dust. So they're going to need a good vacuum clean out to get all that dust out, because if these get blocked much more, then it is possible that it could lead to overheating. The fan at the back there is also very grubby. That's going to be hard to get to, and I might leave that. I might try to get a Q-tip with a bit of rubbing alcohol just to give it a little bit of a clean. The reason I'm using rubbing alcohol and not water when it comes to the inside parts or the electrical parts like this here is because it just evaporates off. And water can lead to corrosion, but this stuff will just evaporate off. So that's why it's good. If we have a look in here, it also needs a bit of a clean in here as well. So really that stuff there is cosmetic, but it really is important to get all these vents nice and clean. And this happens even if you live in a very clean house, you will still get a build-up of dust on the vents. Now, when it comes to this controller down here, it's going to be hard to see, but if you look in closely there, you can see that the contact on the top right has got corroded. So you can see that water or dampness has definitely gone in there at some stage, because all the other contacts are nice and shiny and like a gold colour, but that one there is covered in what looks like verdigris, which is when copper gets wet. So that needs to be cleaned. That's where I would use the rubbing alcohol. When it comes to the controller here, this just needs a really good clean. So that's just from a long time of being held in the hand. You can see that there's all grime and stuff in there. So it's not so bad unless your own grime, but when you've bought something second hand, it's nice to give it a good clean. And also, if you do have a build up around this, then you can find that it might get a bit sticky and it might not operate properly. So that needs a good clean. And lastly, the gamepad. With the gamepad, this is where we need the cotton cloth, because we don't want to damage the touchscreen. We don't want any scratches or scrapes on it. So we're using a nice soft cotton cloth, which is just going to be slightly damp, not wet. You don't want to put any water near there. It's just going to be ever so slightly damp. With this one, really, it just needs a good clean just to get rid of the fingerprints and everything. We've got a slight bit of grime in the D-pad up there. So I just want to clean that. Also, I want to clean around the analog sticks as well. But really, the contacts and everything on this one are all nice and clean and working fine. So this just needs a good overall clean. So that's it basically. So I'm going to be fast forwarding through the bits now, and we're going to see what happens at the end. If there's any important bits, I will stop and I will play it in normal time. So first things first, I'm going to sort out the console. So I'm going to be using a vacuum cleaner with the bristle brush at the end, and I'm going to put it on the max power, so when I agitate it I want all the dust to go up here, because I don't want all the dust to fall into the system. So you can see just by giving it that quick hoover now, look at all those vents, completely clear. Even the fan doesn't look quite as bad as it did before, but I will clean that anyway. So that didn't take long, that bit there. Now I'm just going to try and clean the fan a bit. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a bit of surgical spirit or rubbing alcohol, and I'm just putting a tiny little bit in the lid there, just a very small bit. I'm going to get a Q-tip, Put it in there like so. So I'm going to get another Q-tip now just to stop the fan from moving. So I'm just going to put that in the top section there. And now I can actually get to the fan without it moving everywhere. And this is really cleaning up nice. Now I'm going to be very gentle with this. Only do this if you're confident, because you don't want to damage the fan. It'd be much better to have a dirty fan than a broken fan. And also use good quality Q-tips as well, because the cheaper ones, what you can sometimes find is that you will end up losing the cotton buds at the end of them, and you don't want that going into your system either. Right, okay, so I'm happy with that there. That looks a lot better than it did. And now we're just going to give it a good wipe all over just to make it look nice and clean. This cleaned up perfectly just with the hoover, so I don't need to insert anything in there and clean. And look at the grime that come off the fan there. So I'm going to get my cotton cloth and I'm just going to dip it in the water there, and I'm just going to make sure that it's not wet, that it's just damp. So that now is just slightly damp to the touch. Okay, so we've done that now. Next we're going to try and fix this corroded connector here. So the actual controller itself is very clean. This is an aftermarket one, but it's just this connector. So first things first, before I add any products to it, I'm just going to give it a little scrape with the needle. Right, I'm just going to dip my needle in a bit of surgical spirit, and I'm going to put it in there. It's not a problem doing this because, oh, there you go, look at that bit there that's come out, look at that. It's not a problem doing this with rubbing alcohol or surgical spirit because it's just going to evaporate off. Just remember, don't put it straight back in, just let it dry off for a good 15-20 minutes or so before you do anything with it. Just using a Q-tip dipped in surgical spirit just around the outside. There we go, so look at the difference now, look how much better that looks than it did before. And now all the contacts are nice and bright, and you can see the gold on every one of them, so that's going to work fine now. So next we're going to be cleaning up the gamepad. This is mainly going to be just rubbing it over with the cotton, the damp cotton cloth, but I do just want to clean up the D-pad here because it's a bit grimy. So again, I'm just going to get the little needle, and I'm just going to gently scrape it off. You see how easy it comes off. Now, if you've bought this second hand and you don't really like the thought of doing this because it is a bit disgusting, then just wear some little gloves. Now, when you're doing this, do it very gently because you don't want to scrape up all the plastic. And also be careful not to miss, because if you're going in here and you slip, you can end up scraping the plastic or the screen. Right, the buttons on this are nice and clean. Sometimes you can get a build up of grime around here as well, but in this instance they're nice and clean. The only other place where I've got grime is up the top here, can you see? So I'm just nice and gently going to just... There you go, it's all coming out now, look. See there? Don't really want to go in the speakers. What I'm going to do with the speakers, I'm just going to give that a quick hoover. Right, back to our cotton cloth again. The reason I use cotton is because it's lovely and soft and it's not abrasive, because you don't want to use a rough cloth because you'll end up scratching the screen. So I'm using slightly warm water, and the main thing is that it's not wet, it's just slightly damp, so run it all the way around the cloth. And now we're just going to rub it all over. I'm going to use circular action on the screen. And lastly, we're going to clean up the controller because this is really grimy. So with this one, it's just going to be a case of getting the small needle or flathead screwdriver and getting into all the grooves just to try and get out all that grime. If you have a look around the directional pad up there, you can see again it's filthy. So what I'm doing here is I'm using my nail through the cloth and rubbing it up and down the grooves at the side. As you can see, it's getting out the dirt because we've loosened it all already with the screwdriver. Actually, you know, it would be a good idea to take out the batteries, and then it's not going to keep turning itself on. Do the B button at the back as well. I'm struggling to get the directional pad clean, so I'm going to use a Q-tip in some surgical spirit again for this bit. Now with the strap, I'm going to take it off. I mean, you can either buy a new one, I mean this is absolutely filthy, or put it in a bowl of hot water with some washing up liquid. So I'm going to add a bit of washing up liquid and leave that soak for a bit. Starting to look a little bit better. It looks dirty because it's wet, but I know when that dries now it will be slightly whiter than it was before. I'm just going to leave that soak in there for a little while. Okay, so we're finished. I'm happy with the result there, so let me just quickly show you everything. If you have a look at the fans now, all nice and clean. Even the fan at the back looks much better than it did before. That all looks good. So even if you were going to sell your Wii U, by just spending 20 minutes cleaning it up, you can actually add quite a bit of value to it. Especially if you're going to bring it to a shop to part exchange, because they, you know, when something looks clean, it looks so much better. So have a look at that there. That looks so much better than it did before. I mean, it's still going to be full of fingerprints every time you touch it. Remember the D-pad was all dirty? So I'm well happy with that. The controllers come up perfectly. See, there's none of that green left now, so that's going to work fine. And the Wii controller, this was the toughest one because this was the oldest part. But even that now looks a lot better than it did. It's still not perfect, but it looks a lot better if you look at the D-pad now. Yeah, I cleaned around all the buttons as well, and even cleaned in the battery compartment at the back. So it looks a lot better than it did. Like I say, it's not perfect, it's not like a new one, but it's a lot better. And then when that strap goes back on it at the bottom, the strap will be cleaner, or you can get yourself another strap. And if you're wondering how the strap came out, well, it's now dry and it's actually come out a lot better than I thought it would do. So still a little bit creased, but that will fall out over time. And if you have a look now, it's not perfect, but it's still a lot better than it was before. So that's it, that's how to clean up a Wii U. Doesn't take that long, simple materials. The hardest thing to find is something very small, a small little metal object, but that's why a needle is fine. Or these are for, I think this is from like, it's a little glasses repair kit. You get these from places like the Pound Shop. So that's it, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe for more how-to videos. Take care, bye now.